Hi everyone, it's Dan with Team Intangible, and in this video we're going to dive into how intangible assessments and clutch factor scores can be used from a mental development tracking perspective. In sports today, we have the benefit through the advances in wearable technology to basically be able to measure everything physical about an athlete. But right here gets to the heart of the problem. Physical training is built on a simple foundation. It's consistent and actively trackable. You lift weights, you run sprints, you see the numbers go up. Easy. But mental training? Historically, that's just been a huge question mark. Are we being consistent? And the bigger question, how in the world do you even track it? Okay, so let's get into this blind spot. For way too long, the mental side of the game has been treated, well, like some kind of magic. But the truth is, it's a skill, and a skill that's just been flying completely under the data radar. So here's the bottom line: we have to start treating the mind just like any other muscle in the body. I mean, you'd never expect an athlete to stay strong if they never step foot in the gym, would you? The exact same logic applies here. Mental skills need consistent, dedicated practice just to stay where they are, let alone get any better. So, if we all agree that mental training has to be consistent, the $1 million question is, how do we measure it? How do we turn something that feels so abstract, like clutch performance, into a hard number we can actually look at? Well, this is where Intangible comes in, and our clutch factor scores have been built to solve this exact problem, providing concrete data from a mental development perspective. It's a perfect example of how the industry is trying to take all the guesswork out of the mental game and turn it into a skill you can actually track. So let's see how something like this would actually work in the real world, because it's not just about getting a single score and calling it a day. It's about creating a whole development cycle that gives coaches and their staff insights they can actually use. The whole process is basically a continuous loop. First, you assess an athlete to get a baseline. Where are they right now? Then you implement some specific mental training based on what you found. But here's the key step. Number three, you retest. This isn't a one and done thing. By retesting, you can finally truly analyze their progress over time and see if the training is actually working. So, what does this look like in practice? Well, pro level staff use an intangible, do this with their training plans to really move the needle after a few months or so. But it's also a great diagnostic tool. If an athlete's scores suddenly take a nosedive, it gives you context that maybe some outside factors are at play. And maybe most revealing, it shows you which players are really prioritizing their mental game. Now, it's really important to understand where a tool like this fits into your picture. The goal is not to replace the human element, nor replace coaches or sports psychologists or sports performance staff. The whole idea is to empower them with new data. In fact, for teams that are lucky enough to have a sports psychologist, these assessments have been called their best friend. And why is that? It's because they provide critical information about an athlete right from day one, insights that might otherwise take months and months of one on one sessions to uncover. But what about the vast majority of teams that don't have a dedicated sports psychologist on staff? For them, a tool like Intangible bridges a massive gap. It gives the coaching staff essential information that can help them guide a player's mental development, even without having that specialist on hand. So let's bring this all home. What's the ultimate outcome here? What happens when you stop guessing and you start tracking the mental game? You unlock a brand new competitive advantage. You start developing a part of your athlete that most of your competition is probably leaving completely to chance. And that leaves us with one final thought. We track every single other aspect of performance with incredible detail. So you have to ask yourself, in those critical moments that decide a game and win games, what's the real score? What's the real value and what's the real cost when the mental game is the only thing you're not measuring?